The day they demolished my great-grandfather's bridge was the day I decided to turn their $4 million lakeside resort into a muddy wasteland. It's 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I'm sipping coffee on my dock when the growl of diesel engines slices through the morning fog. A bulldozer rumbling toward the stone bridge my great-grandfather Edward Caldwell built in 1925, a century-old lifeline for our community. But here's what Margaret Ellison and her power-hungry HOA board didn't know about water rights in Colorado. My great-grandfather didn't just build that bridge, he controlled the dam, and I inherited the legal power to drain their precious lake. Asterisk, asterisk, drop a comment. What would you do if someone tried to erase your family's legacy? Where are you watching from? I want to know how many of you have faced these HOA tyrants. I'm Nathan Hayes, a 38-year-old civil engineer who inherited a slice of paradise 3 months ago, a lakefront cabin in Silver Creek Estates, Colorado. My great-grandfather, Edward Caldwell, built it in 1922 after returning from World War I, but his real masterpiece was the bridge, a hand-cut limestone arch connecting our side of Crystal Lake to the main road, carrying fishermen, kids, and neighbors for 100 years, its stones worn smooth by time and trust. My wife, Clara, and I dreamed of retiring here, fixing up the cabin, consulting remotely, fishing off the creaky wooden dock that sang a lullaby under my boots. Then Margaret Ellison happened, 55, the kind of woman who wears diamond earrings to the post office and drives a gleaming silver SUV that never touches gravel. 2 years ago, she moved into Willow Shores, the ritzy development across the lake that sprouted like invasive weeds, and within 6 months, she'd clawed her way to HOA president, ruling over 47 luxury homes, each worth $1.2 million. Trouble arrived with her first certified letter, heavy with official menace, declaring my bridge an aesthetic violation under HOA Covenant 47B, demanding removal within 30 days or face $500 daily fines. I laughed. My bridge predated her development by 8 decades. Digging through dusty boxes in Edward's attic, I found survey maps, deed records, and a grandfathering clause protecting pre-existing structures. So I marched into the HOA meeting at the Willow Shores Community Center, its air thick with floor wax and stale ambition, spreading my documents like a royal flush. There's been a misunderstanding, I said, but Margaret barely glanced at them, replying, "Times change, Mr. Hayes. Progress demands sacrifice," her smile dripping condescension. The board, stacked with her wealthy allies, voted 5-2 to enforce the covenant, and as gravel crunched under my boots leaving the meeting, I realized this wasn't about aesthetics. It was about power. Margaret saw my modest cabin, beat-up truck, and old bridge as threats to her upscale vision, and she wanted me gone. Clara stayed hopeful over dinner, squeezing my hand. "We'll fight this together. You've got the law on your side." But privately, I wondered if being right was enough. Margaret didn't wait. 3 days later, 2 polo shirt goons from Ellison Security Solutions, owned by her husband, Charles, appeared at my property line, citing my grass for exceeding 3 inches, my dock for needing repainting, my shed for being unkempt. Over 2 weeks, they nitpicked everything. My mailbox was the wrong blue, my doormat too large, my fishing net visible, and by week 3, I faced $1,200 in fines. As an engineer, I attacked the problem systematically, discovering on a state website that Charles' security license expired 6 months ago. His patrols were illegal. A buddy's inspection of Margaret's property uncovered her unpermitted deck, a pool house over the setback line, and a koi pond 3 feet onto my land. So I filed complaints with the state and requested a property survey, keeping it quiet. Margaret retaliated with rumors. At the hardware store, whispers called me difficult. Clara came home upset after the grocer avoided her, and Mrs. Larson from the bakery shunned her. Anonymous complaints claimed my bridge was unsafe and I was polluting the lake, laughable for an environmental engineer. But Margaret's first mistake was underestimating my expertise. A public records request uncovered 1920s water rights documents, including engineering reports and secondary water rights never transferred to the HOA, giving my family control over Crystal Lake's flow. Margaret's $4 million resort, with its boat docks and lakefront dining, depended on stable water levels. But she was so focused on my bridge, she missed the bigger picture. I understood water. Margaret escalated. A county inspector, tipped off anonymously, arrived with a clipboard, citing my bridge for lacking seismic reinforcement, demanding $3,000 to comply within 10 days or face condemnation. Absurd in Colorado where earthquakes are rarer than unicorns. The inspector handed me Charles S. card from Ellison Construction, offering to fix it for $12,000. But his contractor license had expired 2 years ago. Knowledge nugget. In Colorado, HOA security and contractors must be licensed. Check credentials before they cite you. My bridge was grandfathered from seismic codes, but Margaret wasn't playing by rules. She was playing for control. I dove deeper into water rights, finding in county archives that Edward held flow management authority, meaning I could legally control the lake's water level. The resort's bank loan, public due to tax incentives, required the lake to stay within 18 inches of full capacity, or the $4 million loan would be called due immediately. I could drop the lake 18 inches in 6 hours using Edward S. secondary spillway under the bridge. Margaret S. family had invested $500,000, and Charles co-signed the loan with their house as collateral. The resort's grand opening, with $200,000 in deposits for weddings and tournaments, hinged on that water. I sat in the archives, surrounded by musty paper, holding a nuclear weapon in a water rights war. The moral weight hit hard. The resort employed 43 locals who needed those jobs, but Margaret had made this personal, targeting my family's legacy and turning neighbors against each other. I walked the dam, studying Edward S. bypass valves, hidden under moss but functional, a testament to his genius. I decided to give Margaret one last chance to negotiate. But if she pushed further, I'd use my rights. Margaret sensed something, hiring Blackstone and Partners, a $2,000 an hour firm from Denver, to challenge my water rights as archaic. She called an emergency HOA meeting to declare me a community danger, alleging I threatened the dam. Her private security, ex-military types, patrolled 24/7, and she spread lies about me planning to poison the water. News trucks appeared, painting me as a water rights extremist. But her overreach backfired. Property rights groups and environmental lawyers rallied to my cause, and resort staff quietly supported me. Clara S.'s sister, Elise, a Denver paralegal, compiled evidence of Margaret S. financial misconduct. $30,000 in HOA funds paid to Charles S. companies. Mrs. Harper, an 80-year-old board member, introduced me to Luis Torres, a resort maintenance worker who grew up fishing off my bridge and resented Margaret as tyranny. Luis wore a wire, catching Margaret offering him $10,000 to sabotage the dam and frame me. My water rights attorney, Patricia Klein, confirmed my authority under federal law, trumping local ordinances. Knowledge nugget: federal water rights override local law when historical claims predate jurisdiction. I prepared a compromise. I'd keep my bridge, guarantee water levels, and support Margaret S. architectural reviews. If she refused, I'd open the valves. Frank Dawson, a retired dam operator who knew Edward, trained me on the bypass system, explaining how one man with basic tools could control the flow. The HOA meeting was a circus. Margaret S. allies packed the room, reeking of cologne and desperation. I presented my compromise, spreading water rights documents, loan agreements, and Margaret S. financial irregularities. "This is extortion," she hissed. "You're threatening a $4 million investment over simple rules." Patricia countered, "This is negotiation. Mr. Hayes guarantees your water supply for respecting his rights." Margaret exploded, "I don't negotiate with terrorists." Frank added, "Jake's got 80-year-old legal authority. This is property law." The board rejected my offer 6-2, Mrs. Harper and Mr. Walsh dissenting. Margaret gloated, "Your threats hold no power." Gravel crunched like a countdown as I left. She'd chosen war. Luis called it dawn. Margaret offered him $15,000 more to frame me. He'd recorded it and alerted the sheriff. Patricia filed federal charges for water rights interference and bribery. Margaret S.'s final move was a federal restraining order, alleging I threatened interstate commerce and the environment, but Patricia's counter-injunction superseded it, affirming my rights. Tuesday dawned sharp and cold. I arrived at the dam at 8 a.m. with Patricia, Frank, and media crews. Margaret stood with her. Security, 3 deputies, and Blackstone lawyers, blocking the controls, screaming, "You will not pass. You're a danger to our community." Patricia handed the sheriff my federal injunction. "Mr. Hayes has authority to operate these systems." The sheriff stepped aside. "Ma'am, this is federal jurisdiction." Margaret shrieked. "You're letting this lunatic destroy a $4 million investment over a 1925 paper?" Her words, "People like him don't belong," exposed her classist agenda on live TV. I knelt at the valve housing, removing bolts with Frank's tools, each metallic ring a note of finality. A reporter asked, "What are you doing?" "Opening secondary flow channels designed by my great-grandfather in 1925 for maintenance," I replied. "It's legal under federal water rights." The brass wool turned smoothly, and a deep rumble signaled water rushing through Edward's channels. The lake dropped 18 inches in 20 minutes, exposing the resort's docks and mud. Margaret whispered, "You can't destroy everything we've built." I faced the cameras. "Mrs. Ellison, I offered compromise. You chose war. This is what losing a water rights war looks like." By evening, the shoreline was mud, the grand opening canceled, and the bank called the $4 million loan. Margaret stood frozen as her empire drained away. "Mrs. Harper ****'s voice cut through. "Welcome home, Nathan. Edward would be proud." I restored normal flow within 24 hours, and investors, desperate to save their resort, offered a partnership. My bridge became a historic landmark, and I guaranteed water levels. Margaret fled to Nevada after federal charges for bribery and HOA fund misuse. Charles lost his licenses. Their home sold to cover fines. The new HOA, led by Mrs. Harper and Luis, created the Caldwell Bridge Historic District, boosting tourism. Property values rose. People love authentic communities. Clara and I started the Edward Caldwell Water Rights Scholarship at Colorado State, funded by speaking fees from water rights conferences, helping 5 students, including Luis's daughter, Sophia, who'll join the State Water Authority. The resort, under Luis's management, donates to schools and hosts a Caldwell Bridge Festival. Frank trained me as a dam consultant for 3 other communities. Our case set legal precedents, cited in 12 federal water rights disputes, and inspired the Hayes Act, mandating HOAs respect historic rights. Clara and I expect our first child next spring, who'll grow up fishing off Edward's dock. The bridge, now on the National Register of Historic Places, carries laughter and footsteps, not bulldozers. Margaret's tale warns of unchecked HOA power, but did I go too far? Draining a lake to save a legacy, justice, or vengeance? Some say I became the bully, wielding water like a weapon. Others call it righteous defense. What's your take? Was this fair, or did I cross a line? Share your HOA horror stories below and debate the ethics. Should legacy trump progress? If this fired you up, subscribe for my next story. How century-old mineral rights saved a farmer's land from a corrupt city council. Knowledge is power, history matters. And bullies hate when you know the law better than they do. The gentle lap of Crystal Lake against my dock now mixes with children's laughter, a reminder that some legacies are worth fighting for.